live streaming going forward now. From now on, every race, we will continue to upload the streams to the podcast places. So please tell your friends about us. Get your family involved. Formula One is the fastest growing sport in the world. There's about 100 million people just got through watching the Austrian Grand Prix. So have all your friends and family become part of it. Welcome, Formula One fans. It is time for the Belgian Grand Prix. Greetings, this is the Formula One News Hour. I'm your host, Jonathan Steele, and the story so far from Belgium, it's wet. We'll be interested to see how things are this morning for the sprint for the pole. So a sprint format here to determine pole position for the race this weekend. But first, let's go ahead and thank our sponsors, Thenology at thenology.com, Give, Send, Go at givesendgo.com, and Moms for Liberty at momsforliberty.org. It was, allergies again. It was a very wet Friday as I get ready here for the beginning of this race. It was a very wet Friday in Belgium, but they still had their qualifying sessions. And I guess the big news was that Max Verstappen nearly just squeaked into Q3 by a few thousandths of a second. As he struggled with his car on the wet track. The guys that weren't struggling was Ricciardo, although he did not make it out of Q1. He had some very nice runs on the qualifying in the qualifying sessions, and the other guy seems to be able to drive well in the rain is Piastri, the young Australian rookie who is driving for McLaren. At the end of the day, though, when all the qualifying was done and the drivers went home, it was Max Verstappen on pole, followed by Charles Leclerc. And then Leclerc, Piastri. And the top 4 or 5 was Verstappen, Leclerc, Piastri, Perez, interestingly enough, up there as well. But Max Verstappen is going to get a 5-grid penalty. So no matter where he finishes on this race for the pole here this morning, he is going to end up in the 5 places further down from there. So the other interesting news coming out of Formula One this weekend, and that is Omar, the team principal for Alpine, or Alpine, depending on where you're from and what language you speak, is out. And it's not really known whether he left voluntarily, or if he was asked to leave. But anyway, Otmar is out of the Alpine team, so that's very interesting happenings there. If you remember last weekend, Alpine did the great job of taking, both the drivers took themselves out in the second corner, I believe it was, of the race. Through no fault of theirs, it was actually Pierre Gasly that caused that issue. But anyway, he is out, and we have yet to have someone named to take his place. He is there for this weekend, but this will be his last race as team principal for Alpine. Also out is their chief engineer. So again, we don't know if they're being forced out or if they just said, this is not for us anymore. So anyway, the race is about to get going in about 4 to 5 minutes, and we'll be right back. And so we are going through the starting grid here. It's actually been delayed 2 or 3 times here this morning. It was supposed to have started probably 40 minutes ago. It is now just about to get underway, and it is coming up a little after 10 o'clock here in Austin, Texas. Looking at the weather, lots of fog. I don't know if it's raining. Yeah, it's pretty wet, but I don't know if it's raining. But now they've just put the formation lap back to 12 minutes after 5 locally, and we're watching the drivers now in the cars and everything, and I'll turn the sound down so it doesn't give my great and good producer and technical guru Andre Kuhn grief. But so anyway, we are going to go live right now. So you folks that like to see the live stream, please go to http f1nh.com and click on the live stream button. So good morning to everyone that is watching the podcast here live stream. We've actually been recording here for about 5 or 6 minutes as we waited for the race sprint to the pole to begin, and the weather, and which is probably why they've been delaying it. But the weather is quite nasty. It's to be honest, I don't know if after they've got a little kid there covered in a plastic bag. That's not really the brightest thing in the world, but what do we know, right? Our parenting days are over. It's a whole new parenting thing going on now. Anyway, back to the race, or lack thereof. I would be surprised if after this formation lap, if they actually have this sprint for the pole. And what they're talking about is if they don't have the sprint for the pole, the starting grid for the race tomorrow would be determined by the championship points. So that would automatically put Max Verstappen first, and then Sergio Perez, and then down through the Charles Leclerc and Hamilton and all those guys. So they're going to take where your driver's standing is in the World Championships, and that's how they will start. Except, of course, that Max Verstappen has to take a 5-grid penalty. So what happened was, I guess he needed some transmission upgrades, and it was coming out of sync. And giving a picture here of the water and the drainage systems, which look to be very good, by the way. They've got the water draining off the track very nicely. Really, that's... Well, how about all these fans? There's nothing like Formula One fans, right? I guess soccer fans too. But that'll stand around in the cold and the rain and watch their favorite sport or watch their favorite team. It's just amazing. But it's got to be kind of a downer being at the Belgian Grand Prix this morning. Now they've just put a thing up. Race control is delaying the start. So I'm wondering if what is happening is they are expecting this heavy downpour of rain that is over the track right now. I'm wondering if they're expecting that to move on through and the rain to lighten up, which could answer why, and probably does, why they've delayed it so far today. Now, under the rules of Formula One, they can only delay so far and then they cancel because they have to get the qualifying, all of this, the race, everything has to be within. And in fact, that's probably what they're doing. They're showing a shot of the clouds now, and the rain is certainly passing on through. If those clouds were here in Austin, Texas, we would be saying build up some bigger ones and rain, because we haven't had any rain in July. Every day so far in July has been over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So all you Europeans that are watching can do a quick conversion into Celsius. But we've had the other night we had a little 2-minute cloud open up and give it a quick once over. All that managed to do was make it humid, really humid, for about 2 to 3 hours, and then of course it was back to a very dry season. So on top of the problems of not having rain, of course, is the area lakes that supply this area with water are very low. The biggest one, which is Lake Travis, is down to 43%. Which is getting rather low. The lakes around here are servicing probably in the total Austin area, all the little cities around, probably 2.5 to 2.75 million people. So we're seeing the safety car out on the track right now. So that means that he's just doing a once around to see how much the spray is and see if there's actually a lot of standing water on the track. And that doesn't seem to be the case. Every now and then as you come out of the turns, but you can see, yeah, the Spa is quite a large track. The next heavy rain shower is expected in 2 to 3 minutes. So that's one of the drivers talking to his team, or the team talking to one of the drivers. But for the most part, I think that the rain is passing through, and they're going to get this sprint to the pole in here this morning. So while we're waiting for this little thing to get going, we should say thank you to our sponsors, Thynology. Data center in Austin, Texas. You can find them at thynology.com. Give Send Go, a crowdfunder they're actually out of Boston, Massachusetts, but of course it doesn't matter where those guys are out of, they're all over the world. And you can find them at givesendgo.com. And then Moms for Liberty. Moms for Liberty, they're actually headquartered out of Miami, Florida, but they have 183 chapters throughout the United States. So you can log on to momsforliberty.org and join a chapter near you. As they're starting to show shots of the drivers sitting in their cars waiting for this race to start, it's got to be what's the word I'm looking for? It's like they get all dressed up and ready to go, and then I guess it's like you get all dressed up and ready to go to a nice party or a dance or something, and you're waiting for an Uber or you're waiting for a taxi to come pick you up, and it's late, and then you've told everybody you'll be there at 8 o'clock. And it's late, and you're all excited, and you're standing there, and they're showing a shot now of the clouds passing over. Unfortunately, they are passing over very quickly. So right now, as we speak, the largest downpour is passing over the track right now, followed by another one. So, but after that, there doesn't appear to be any. So we might get lucky here, and this will start in the next 4 to 5 minutes. To recap on the happenings of yesterday, of course, or actually I don't know if it was yesterday or Thursday. Anyway, the news broke yesterday that Omar, and I can't pronounce his last name, but he is team principal at Alpine. And Alpine has not had a great year, but you know what? The last 3 or 4 races, actually, I thought they'd done quite well, except for last weekend, where they both crashed into each other and took each other out of the race. And we're busy looking at a shot, talking of news. We're looking at a shot right now of Danny Ricciardo. Of course, Danny Ricciardo has replaced Nick de Vries in that AlphaTauri car. And he had quite a good 2 or 3 good laps for time sessions yesterday. Qualifying at one time led the qualifying pace, but by the time the end of Q1 came and there was scrubbing times, because when you go out and you have to either keep or drop the last time, and I guess his team probably made a couple of little errors right there. And they dropped a time that they probably should have kept. That actually he ended up staying put there in Q1. He did not make it out to Q2, and they're showing a shot of the track right now, and it is a gully washer, as we like to say in Texas. Yes, I've been here long enough to where I've picked up some of these Texas slangs. In fact, I think I've just passed my 47th year here, maybe 48th year. So it's been a long time. I lived, as for many of you don't know, but I lived in Australia for a couple of years, after I left England, and then I was actually on my way back to England, back to Australia from England after having some operations done in England, and got sidetracked and have been in the United States ever since. Anyway, so it's an interesting day at the races, as they would say. Reminds me a little bit of Japan last year, Japan or Singapore, where they ended up. Actually, I think it was Japan, where they ended up dropping the qualifying session altogether because of the rain, and it was it was Japan because Yuki Tsunoda didn't get to display his driving abilities that day to to the Japanese fans. And now they're showing another live shot. Of course, they got the cars, the drivers, the teams under these canopies. But the pace car is sitting out there ready to lead them off on the formation lap. And the rain has, in fact, now started to subside somewhat. So I think we're going to see, they'll pop these canopies off and we'll see these cars off and going here in just a little bit. The other guy that really had a good day yesterday was Oscar Piastri. He is really proving himself in his first year as a Formula One driver. It's quite remarkable to see. I mean, he's up there with Hamilton and Perez and his teammate Lando Norris, as well as others. I'm not going to say he's quite as good as Verstappen yet, but many of the pundits are saying it's only, especially if McLaren can get him the car, it is only a matter of a couple of years here, and he will be contending for race wins quite often. So the Australians got to be very proud of that young man. Of course, in my day, probably the greatest race car driver to come out of Australia is Jack Brabham. He of course was a Formula One world champion back in the 60s, and also he owned his own team, and a number of famous drivers from that era drove for Jack Brabham. And one of those, in fact, is his namesake. Bruce McLaren actually drove for Jack Brabham for a year. And they're saying the rain should stop in 5 minutes. All right. And they're showing the clouds. And I agree. I'm just reading messages coming across there from the team to the cars. So, the rain is going to stop. So right now we're coming up almost a full hour delay here. It was supposed to start at 9:24 local time here in Austin, Texas, and it is coming up on 10:17, so very nearly an hour late, an hour behind. So anyway, the most important thing is to get this thing on the road and get it going. And as we shoot from car to car and driver to driver, the other guy that seemed to have an all right day yesterday during qualifying was Valtteri Bottas. He ended up the day qualifying in 10th position for this sprint to the pole race, but that's pretty good because Alfa Romeo, of course, have struggled this year, and in particular Valtteri Bottas. I mean, Valtteri Bottas, when he was driving for Mercedes, was always expected to be a podium finish guy, a podium finisher, and of course, since he's been with Alfa Romeo last year, I don't think he made a pole, but he was certainly finishing up there in the top 5 or so. Certainly the top 10, and this year he's struggling to get into the top 15. So it'd be nice. I think last weekend he had a pretty decent day, but overall it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see the struggles that these guys go through, and it's not just this sport, right? You can take a lot of different sports. Tennis players. soccer players, football players, American football is what I'm talking about there, baseball players. They play amazingly for 3-4 months at a time, and then all of a sudden it just leaves them, and there's no real explanation why, other than, of course, they're all human beings, and to be as good as these guys are and to maintain their positions at the top of their sport, it's not physical. There's nothing physical about it. It's between the ears. So there's something that happens to them psychologically. The confidence level drops off. Maybe they wake up one day and they just, they don't feel that good, and they get out and they get in the car, or they get in the swimming pool, or they get out on the field and they have a bad day, and then all of a sudden it brings doubt into their mind, and then that doubt spreads to next week and so on. And so you have these ebbs and flows, and then it comes back. Look at Checo Perez right now. He went through probably 3 or 4 really tough races, maybe a couple more, but certainly 3 or 4 races where he didn't get out of Q1. He was finishing back in the 15th and 18th position, and then all of a sudden he gets up one day and he's back at the top. So it's really interesting to watch it. So everybody is taking their umbrellas down now. The plastic bags or covers that the fans were wearing are coming off. So I would say that's a good sign that we are about to get this sprint for the pole out and going. I believe it's 14 laps. This is, like I said earlier, this track is quite long. It's like 3.5, maybe 3.75 miles. If I remember rightly. The race itself is only 40 laps. So that tells you right there that, they try and have the distance each week be consistent. So Spa, of course, is a very famous, it's one of the older Formula One tracks. There's been races there going on all the way since the 50s. And the crowd is looking very happy now. Like I say, the umbrellas have come down and the race is off, and we are now seeing tires and wheels being put on the cars, and we're going to be off and running to the races, as they say here, in just I would say 4 to 5 minutes. We're going to have the formation lap. All the wheels are going on, everything's happening, and it looks to me interesting enough that they're not on. I guess they are full wets. So you'd expect with no rain, track's wet, but as I mentioned earlier, it was dry. It was drying very quickly. So it's going to start in what did I say? 10 minutes. Let me look. It's going to start in 6 minutes. So it'll last about 30 minutes at 14 laps. So it should be a lot of fun. And right now they've got a shot of Sergio Perez, and sure enough, I mean, the rain has come to a grinding halt as fast as it started. So maybe they're full wet. So that's really interesting. See if I can hear some commentary a little bit. I know this is not going to make my producer Andre Kuhn very happy, but let's see what these professionals at Sky Sports, see what they're saying. Yeah, so they're talking about the same thing, that maybe they'll get out there and do a lap or two on the wet tires and then switch to the intermediate as the track dries out, because these tires on these Formula One cars, as do your car tire on your car that you're driving. Yeah, they pick up and they dump about 11 gallons of water a minute on your saloon car. I think on these cars they're picking up a lot more than that. I would say probably in the high 20s. I'll actually do some research on that after the sprint to the pole, and I'll bring you that information tomorrow. I would be interested. I know when back in the 60s, when I was following I'd say just started following Formula One. I think they used to say that the Formula One cars would kick out about 8 gallons of water a minute. So whichever way you put it, it's a lot of water, and they're showing a really black, dark cloud way off in the distance. It's hard to judge by the camera. It's coming from a helicopter, so he's pretty high up there. But I would say that that rain, maybe it's not going to come across the track, and that's really why they're showing it. But anyway, right now we're all happy. We've got the wheels on, and it's a few minutes here from starting the formation lap. The other thing, when it working over there, and you can see in the crowd, they haven't actually shown the temperatures, but I'm going to say that probably it's in the 50s, high 50s, maybe low 60s. Belgian, like the UK, is not known for being hot, or most of Europe actually, except in the south of France and the Mediterranean area there. But where I grew up in England, the average temperature year round was about 48 degrees, and very rarely would it get above 60 degrees. That was a hot summer's day when it got above 60 degrees, and we're seeing a car without a driver here, and I think it's it is George Russell. So he needs to get his act together and get back in his car if he's going to start. The guys from McLaren are ready to go, and there's George putting his fire protective helmets on. Not really helmets. They're like a big balaclava that goes over the entire face. They wear a suit that's fire retardant material. If you were lucky enough to see Roman Grosjean climb out of his burning car a couple of years ago, he got out. The only parts that really got affected were the back of his hands. And one of his feet, because as he was getting out of the car, one of his shoes came off. But for the rest of his body, he was well protected from that car that was on fire, and the heat coming off of those fires is amazingly hot. Back in the 50s and 60s, that was one of the leading causes of death for these race car drivers, not just Formula One, but all of the different race cars. They never thought too much back then about the safety of the fuel. Right now what happens is the fuel tank is totally protected, and with the fire that we saw on the Roman Grosjean car was actually they've got the main tank, and then they've got the one lap tank. So the fuel is moved every lap from the main tank to a smaller tank that is literally can last just about a little over a lap, of course, because you're going to be running out. And so that's that fire that we saw on Roman Grosjean's car was actually that auxiliary tank that burst into flames during when the car got split in two. The main fuel tank maintained its integrity. So that's one way that they've cut down on the number of bad burning incidents in Formula One. It is by really putting a protective shell around the fuel tanks, and they're actually large blubbers. They're not like a metal tank that's in your car. They're malleable, so they can in an accident or something like that, they can like take bends and get all squashed up and change all out of shape, but they won't burst. They won't break, and that's the key. So anyway, they said 10:35 our time, and I think we're coming up to that. We're 3 minutes late. It should have got going 3 minutes ago, but we're not. But the crowd is waving. The drivers are in their cars. They had all those canopies and tents over them. They've got all those removed, and they are ready to get this thing rolling. If they can
just make their mind up. Of course, the longer, for every minute they wait to get things rolling, then the more chance they have that another whole load of rain is going to come in and end this thing early. But right now, it's not, and they are now clearing everybody off the track. The safety car has got his engines and his flashers going, and the drivers have got their engines going. They're sitting there in neutral, and we're getting a really nice shot of we call it Science's steering wheel with all of the information that gets relayed back to the driver. Right? If you really want to know a little bit more about those steering wheels, of course, you can go to the internet, or you can go back. I think last year, back in probably no, it might have been latest, maybe December. I had a whole Formula One News Hour session on the steering wheel, and now they have an official clock up, and it's just stopped. That's really interesting. They put this clock up. It's going to start in 5 minutes and 11 seconds, and it stopped about 10 seconds ago. So they're really struggling with getting this sprint to the pole off and running, and it's going to be. It's going to be interesting if they ever get it going, because if that big rain cloud, and maybe that's what's holding them up here. There was a big rain cloud in the background, and maybe that rain cloud is why they have changed their mind, and they have not restarted this formation lap clock unless my TV, because I haven't seen Max Verstappen blink either. So. Let's see if it's my TV, and it is. So we're going to take a quick 2-minute break here while I see if I can get my broadcast back again. Interesting. Of course, if it's a internet problem, but I'm not seeing an internet problem. No, it's for whatever reason. But now it's showing so it said 5 minutes and 11 seconds, and now it's saying 5 minutes and 1 second. But I excuse me. So I mean, that was down more than 10 seconds. So anyway, the clock is counting. The fans are happy, and it's going to be interesting to see. What kind of weekend Checo Perez has, how the Mercedes do on this longer track. There is on this track a couple of places for overtaking where DRS will be enabled, and they'll have a good opportunity for passing. But also, I would think that this track is going to favor those cars with good straight line speed, and of course that is the Red Bull, and to a certain extent the Ferraris. But the Ferraris are typically better in the turns. But also looking at last weekend, the McLarens had good straight line speed along with Aston Martin. So it's going to be interesting to see how Aston Martin does this weekend, because Fernando Alonso really, we're talking about Sergio Perez having a bad 2 or 3 weeks there, 3-4 weeks. Fernando Alonso has not been on the pole now in the last 3 races. So we got to figure out what is going on with the Aston Martin. Is it the car, or is it something with the driver and the car setup? I don't know. We'll have to do a little bit of research, I guess, into that. But it's as I was just talking about a few minutes ago, it's interesting to see the ebb and flow of these world-class organizations, and let's face it, this is the very best of the very best, and you see this ebb and flow of the drivers and the cars, with the exception, of course, of Red Bull this last couple of years with Max Verstappen, and then before that, Mercedes with Lewis Hamilton. They managed to maintain it, but once they lost that it was very difficult to get it back. And it's really interesting to me when these fans realize, and it's not just Formula One races, of course, it's at all these sporting events. It's really interesting to me when fans realize they're on TV and they start waving and all kind of stuff like that. And it's really fun to see happy people, because there's a lot of people in the world that struggle and really have a tough time of life, it's really just a good thing to see happy people, and they got the wave going now, which was something that was started here in the U.S. at the ball games, where they do the wave all the way around or in these cases they're straight, of course. The stands are pretty straight. They do have some. Some of these stands that take up, especially some of the chicane corners and stuff like that, where they can wrap the stands around. If you're watching my hands going around, they can actually watch the cars as they take the full turn. So yeah, they put a lot of thought into how and where they're putting these stands. And talking of that, my daughter took me to a vintage car show at Dakota track here for Father's Day a month or so ago, and I noticed they are adding more stands out there at Dakota track. So, last year we had 423,000 people come through Austin, Texas, for the Formula One Grand Prix. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that go over the 500,000 mark. So it's really, really interesting. I remember 10 years ago when that track came here. The state of Texas put up $25 million for the teams to for the Formula One track, because they have to pay. The track has to pay a fee to Formula One for the privilege of hosting it, and the state agreed to put up the $25 million for the first 5 years, and everybody was going, "Wow, what a waste of taxpayer money that is." And of course, it's paid back for itself many times over. But in tax revenue raised with the sale of drinks and souvenirs and just everybody coming from hotels and restaurants, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, when you've got 423,000 people coming through your venue, that's a lot of money being dumped into one place at one time, because the tickets themselves are not cheap. So they're saying we are about to go 5, 3, 2, 1, and we should have the safety car, and we do. Off goes Max Verstappen, followed by Piastri in the McLaren. So not a lot of spray coming up, at least on the straightaway there, as they come off the grandstands and come down to the first corner, which is almost a chicane. It is a very tight corner on this track, but not as much spray as I thought there would be. It's really interesting watching the amount of spray though coming up off the safety car versus the Formula One cars. The safety car is like it's hardly any spray at all coming up. Of course, it's got fenders, so it's harder to see, but certainly the amount of water coming up is not as much as I expected, given the amount of rain that we were seeing come up there. So they are all on the wet tire, so it's going to be interesting to see if after the formation lap anybody dives in for a tire change, or if they're just going to make do with the wet tires for the duration of the race, because the amount of water that's being thrown up, and they're actually showing blue skies right now in Liège, Belgium. In Belgium, of course, if you don't know, the language they speak is Flemish, and it's kind of a cross between Belgian, French. That's the main mixture, but you've also got a little Dutch, a little German. So it's kind of a mix of all of the different countries that are over there that kind of surround it. But a really nice place to visit if you got somewhere you want to go. It is the home of the Central European Union government, which a lot of people are unhappy with, because the whole thing for the EU was really a trading bloc, and it became much more than everybody was supposed to keep their own governments, and they did, but pretty soon they it grew into something that nobody saw coming, which is why the British got out, is because they did not want to have all of the controls being, and they had, they were mandated about how many refugees they had to take and all kinds of stuff. So and it has not turned out the way that everybody had hoped. So, but it is a good trading block amongst partners. Anyway, so we've nearly got the formation lap underway. I think it takes them about I think we were getting around 2 minutes and 2 seconds or something I saw yesterday in the time. So, that tells you again how far this track is. And tomorrow morning I'll have that information for you. We'll know exactly how far it is around this track and how many corners. You'd think as many times as I've watched all of these races, I'd memorize all this stuff, but unfortunately, no. Some, yes, it just depends. It's like anything else in life. Some things you remember clearly, and other things kind of fade off. And that happens both for short-term and long-term memories. It's interesting how your brain can instantly recall, like I can remember watching Jackie Stewart at the Canadian Grand Prix when I was on my way back to Australia and never made it. I can remember that like yesterday, but a lot of the other things that I did in Formula One, I really got to think about and don't remember at all. So it's amazing how the brain selectively remembers certain things for you and not other things. Anyway, we should see them coming through. If you see me get up every now and then, I've got my podcast camera right in front of me, so I do the live stream from my laptop, and I do the podcast. Do the podcast from another camera, and that some of the drivers now are talking back to their pits and saying this is not a wet tire track, it's an intermediate track. So we're going to see if these guys on lap 1 dive into the pits to get the intermediate tire, which will give them at least 2 to 3 seconds more per lap. So let's see, they got 14 laps. It's going to, unless they all do it, it's going to be interesting to see if somebody jumps out there and is the first one to do it, because you'll lose so much time with only 14 laps to go. If you're only gaining 2 to 3 seconds per lap difference on the two tires, on the different types of tires, it's going to be very difficult to justify it. So let's see what happens here as we go through. And the Verstappen, let's see what he's got to say. Are they going to show us? They are not showing us. Well, that's sad. So anyway, we're coming back into the final turns before the end of the formation lap, where everybody will line up to take the race. But this has got to be in the second formation lap, because this has been going on for 3-4 minutes. So they must be, I see what they're doing. They are keeping the cars out there on a formation lap to dry out the track somewhat. So that's why we're seeing this formation lap taking much longer. And we're seeing Red Bull now come out with the intermediate tires. So I think they're going to take the chance somebody got all his wheels locked up on the formation lap and nearly had that's a Alpine. So I don't know who's, and that's Mercedes behind him. Interesting. And they're going to go right through the start finish again. So that's what's happening. They are deciding whether or not to run this sprint for the pole at all. I think right now they've decided that the track is too wet for live racing, and so we are on, actually I was right, we're on our third formation lap, So let's see what the guys, the professional guys at Sky Sports have to say. So what they're talking about, they're actually doing 4 formation laps. And the sprint to the pole, I thought it was 14 laps. It's actually 16 laps. And we're seeing a really dark cloud hanging out over there right now. But so they're doing 4 formation laps, and so there will be 12 sprint laps. So what we're actually seeing right now, not very exciting for the crowd, of course, is they're just watching cars go around and around in circles. And they're using the cars to dry out the track somewhat. So at 12 laps, I can't see anybody coming in and changing from the wet tires to the dry tires. And let's see where that, how far out that big rainstorm is that they're showing there. So it's a strange day in Belgium. But that's what happens in these northern European countries where they have more rain days than they do sunshine days. We would surely like to have some of those rain days here in Austin, Texas, and some years we do. A couple of years ago, we had a really wet first 3 or 4 months of the year, but this year, no, we're in a serious drought. As everywhere you go, all the roads, so you drive from one little town to another, because this whole area is made up of probably 6 or 8. No, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you've got 2 south. Okay, so there are 8. So you've got about 8 different little towns make up this area, and as you're driving through the freeways from town to town, they've all got their signs up saying conserve water, no outdoor watering. So everybody's lawn, ours included, does not look very good because we're not allowed to turn on our sprinkler systems. So which is quite logical given the fact that we are running low on water. So nobody's actually come up and said, well, what happens when we run out of water? Because we're going to continue using water as this area grows, and this whole Austin area, as everybody leaves California and New York, they all end up, most of them come out here. It's drying quick. You could definitely already drive, I think, with the Inters. So that's Max Verstappen. So let's see what they decide to do. It's going to be very interesting. Of course, no matter what happens for Max, he is going to lose 5 positions. So obviously he wants to win this sprint for the pole. That would move him back to 5th, which for him would be nothing. He's come back from the 20th, I think, this year, and 15th. So it wouldn't be a big deal for Max to come from the 5th place up, and especially with that car that he's got, that straight line speed. I mean, he's on a regular short track that's 2.25 miles. He's got half a second or 3/4 of a second on the rest of the field. So add that up over 70 laps, and that's why you get these finishes where he's 35, 40, 50 seconds ahead of the field. So they are thinking, and some very and it's interesting the things these fans do to get on TV, right? This one just had a woman had a model of the Mercedes F1 car attached to the top of her hat. So her hat looks like a Mercedes Formula One car. So are we going to, as they come up to the start-finish line here now, are we going to go to racing? Or are we just going to drive these cars around in a circle and dry out the track? So like I say, if I'm a fan, I wouldn't be too happy because I don't think they're achieving anything now. The spray is maintaining about the same. Obviously, it's a little less because, as I say, they do dry out the track as they go around. But they're coming up here now down the final straightaway into it's kind of a dog leg, right turn, left turn, and then into the starting grid area. So let's see what they do here. It's going to be very interesting. And of course, the poor guys and the professionals, no, they're going to go another one. Oh no! Let's see what they're saying now. Let's see what it's going to say. So safety car will enter pits, rolling start procedure. Okay, very good. All right, so it looks like this time around we're going to have a rolling start because now they're officially going to say after the first lap of the formation laps, then the race had started, albeit behind a safety car. So we are going to go, I'm assuming, to live racing after this lap when the safety car pulls in. I haven't kept count of how many laps they've done, but I guess they've probably only got maybe 10 laps of racing left in them. Let's see if we can pick up and see how many. Sorry, Andre, doing this to you, buddy. See if I can pick up and hear how many laps the professionals at Sky Sports believe we have. What they're talking about right now is whether or not they want to risk going from the wet tire to the intermediate tire. And like I say, if one car does it, they all have to do it, because those that don't do it will be left out in the quote rain. There'll be nothing to it. But Oscar Piastri is coming up alongside that Max Verstappen. They're getting into race formation for this rolling start here, and we're going to see it take off and go. And I believe, yeah. So they are off, and we are on live racing. We just gone through that tricky corner at the end of the first, and we have cars coming into the pits for the intermediate tires. So that's going to see pit lane. Piastri is leading the way. Perez. So they're back out again. So I think this next time, whoa, we just about had, who was that? One of the Alpine cars just about took out one of the Aston Martin cars. So they've all 2.4, 2.5, 5.2 for Hamilton. Whoa, what happened there? 5.2 second pit stop. So Max stayed out. So it's going to be interesting. He'll have picked up a 30, 40 second lead. So they've got 11 laps left to go. Can these guys on intermediate tires make up what am I talking about here? Can they make up around 14? Can they make up 18 seconds in 11 laps? If they're doing 3 laps per 3 seconds per lap, well, yes. If they can't, then no. But they're showing, okay, so Leclerc stayed out, Norris stayed out, Ocon stayed out, Russell stayed out, Sargent stayed out. They're all on the wets. We need to box this lap is what confirmed, box this lap. So Verstappen is going to come in and get tires, and which is going to put him back in about if the other guys stay out on wets, it's going to put him back in 10th position. But he'll come in for tires, and he is throwing up a lot of water with those wet tires. So we're watching Piastri. So Piastri is 18 seconds, and Verstappen is coming into the pits 18 seconds. So let's see where Max comes out here on the pit road. Stop, go, and go. Oh, whoa, he lost a second there. Yeah, 3.2 seconds. And in comes Leclerc. So now everybody else that was on wet is coming in now and going to the intermediate. Whoa, that was a close call right there between a Williams car coming in and Charles Leclerc going out. So it's going to be very interesting. So Verstappen has come out about 1.5 seconds behind Piastri. So Oscar Piastri, the rookie from Australia is leading the sprint for the pole here in Belgium today. So, but he is quickly losing time. Already lost. No, he got it back. I was going to say quickly losing time to Verstappen there, but let's see how this young man does. And right now he's actually pulling away a little bit. So now remember, his tires have got a lap on them, so they're a little warmer than. Whoa! And he nearly didn't have a car to drive because how he kept that car under control, I have no idea. But it fishtailed and wiggled and did all the things that you don't want a Formula One car to do. And you're watching, it's very interesting, watching the line that Max Verstappen has taken, and now he's closing the gap on Piastri, but watching that line that he has taken versus Piastri, and we're also watching Sergio Perez up very close behind Pierre Gasly in the Alpine, and they're all wiggling a little bit. They went to these intermediate tires, but the intermediate tires have not got the grip that the wet tires had. So Piastri has now moved back a little. No, he hasn't. So it's kind of going backwards and forwards right now. Max is warming up his tires. I don't know if we're going to have a DRS here this morning. But that will be interesting to see. If we have, because in some conditions they will not enable DRS. So any passing is going to be on the straight line speed passing, so right now the top five are Piastri, Verstappen, Gasly, Perez, and Hamilton, followed by the two Ferraris, followed by Lando Norris, then followed by in ninth position. So he's come all the way up from 18th. To ninth is Danny Ricciardo, and Danny Ricciardo has always been a wet road driver. He's always been very good in the wet, and he is he's right at 1 second behind Lando Norris. So it looks like the decision that the Alpine was actually made by Red Bull. That decision was a good one. In replacing Nick de Vries with Danny Ricciardo, at least at this early stage of things. So last week, Ricciardo did okay. Coming up for qualifying, as I said, he was yet on Friday was very good. So anyway, we are on lap 3 of 11. Is what the official lap count was. That means we did 5 laps on the formation. So we're just watching the replay of Max Verstappen's pit stop, which, as always, was next to perfect. And we have got a yellow flag. Fernando Alonso is checking out the wall. And so I would say, folks, this race has just come to a quick end, which is going to put Oscar Piastri, because maybe they can. Oh no, they've got a chute there. They can get that car into pretty quickly. All right, so just hang tight. In 2 more laps, I'm sure we'll be going to live racing. I'd like to see a replay. If we can get that going. And who are they bringing in? Ferrari is bringing in. No, they changed their mind. They're putting the wheels back where they were. So I don't know what happened to Fernando Alonso. But that means though that he is going to be starting dead last tomorrow. He will not have anywhere to go other than from last all the way up, which is kind of sad. And they're picking that car up now, and they don't have very far to take it to get it off the track. So maybe 50 yards, if that. So we should go back to live racing. I wonder why they're not giving us a replay. They're showing us what happened to him. I mean, they're showing him what's happening to him. He's walking off the track, and here we go. We got the replay. So it's coming up. He comes in and comes through the turn, and he just lost it going into the turn. It looks like the paint, he got onto a piece of the painted The paint. Oh, he's got no damage to the car though. That's good. And what it is I think you've heard me talk about this before on the gravel that they lay down, because there's only an inch or two, and he just spun around and around and around, because of the gravel. It's like if you've ever driven in snow, it's like your tires sink into the snow. Where if you're not careful, if you've got like a good 4-wheel drive car, it'll settle down and the snow will pad up underneath, and then you can't go anywhere. And the same thing happens here. It's the car settles into the gravel, and then the wheels just spin because the body of the car is sitting on the gravel and they can't get any grip. And that is what has happened. So it's still showing us, showing us on lap 4. So very, very interesting stuff. So I guess we're gonna have another rolling start, but now everybody is on the intermediate wet tire now, and everybody has one pit stop except Alonso. So that's interesting. He must, but if he'd been on all wet tires, you'd have thought he would have had better grip than the guys on the intermediate. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to see what happens on the restart, because now Mr. Young Piastri is going to have to deal with Max Verstappen. And let's just go back to the final race of the 2021 season, when Max Verstappen overtook who was then considered about to be Okay, Max. Intel is Piastri's left-hand side tire is already suffering. Yeah, I'm not surprised. He's drifting everywhere. Okay, so that turn 2 incident involving Alonso and Hülkenberg. Whoa, is it me, or is it every week? It's like the same cars, the same teams in. We're replaying Max Verstappen's. There was an extra second there, and I can't figure out what it was for. And then he nearly ran into, I can't see who it was, but one of the other cars. But and there it shows him coming back out onto the track just behind Oscar Piastri. So safety car is ending, so it's going to come in. So we're going to go back to live racing, which means that we got lap 5 of 11, so we got about 10-15 minutes left of live racing here, and then it should come to the end for a day. It's not really been that great a day for a Formula One fan. We watched the cars go around and around in circles. We watched a lot of rain, and now we've got the cars involving Logan Sargent speeding down pit lane. Ouch, that's not very good. That'll buy him a 5-grid penalty, which probably won't matter because he's already down in 16th. So Alonso will be happy about that, because it would put him behind. Actually, no, it wouldn't. It would put him right ahead of Alonso. Right now, Joe Granu is down there along with Magnussen. But it's interesting how it always seems to be the same kind of teams' cars that are in these altercations every week, causing some kind of disruption. And so it's a lot of Lance Stroll, although I got to admit he's been better this year. He's Aston Martin. And then, of course, the MoneyGram car of Haas Racing. So I don't know why Hülkenberg is a seasoned driver, why he would... this is the second week in a row that he's kind of been out there under investigation for something. And just FYI, guys, this will be the last race until the end of August. So they take that August race, and Oscar Piastri is trying to heat up his tires here, and Max Verstappen is close, oh so close to his rear end. So, and he's just driving nicely in a straight line. So they're about to get going, and they are off. And Piastri is going to take him into the final turn before the start finish line. And as they cross it right now, we're going to go back to live racing, and he's doing a very nice job. Oh no, we've already got another yellow flag. Oh no. Oh, we're back to green. So whatever it was, somebody spun out, I guess. So whatever it was, and now here's Max Verstappen trying to get past Mr. Piastri, which it's only going to be a matter of moments. And here is the moment, and he goes by and puts Piastri back into second place. So a very nice piece of driving there. He didn't even have to wait for the straightaway and put himself back into first place. But kudos to Mr. Piastri there for some nice driving and not causing any kind of real problems as Max Verstappen went past him here. And of course, the move was the typical slipstream move, and Piastri didn't make any attempt to block him. So as they came out of those turns and onto the straightaway, it was good to go. So Logan Sargent is getting a penalty for pit lane speeding, and that will cost him 5 seconds. So, like I said, that's going to put him. He's going to start in 19th position. So, because I don't think that well, actually, maybe where is he? Logan Sargent. Oh no, he's going to put him back in 18th position because he's got a 6, 7, 8 second lead on Yuki Tsunoda. So that's interesting. Why is Yuki Tsunoda all the way back there? Ricardo's up in 9th still. So the top 8, 9 places haven't changed, other than first, second, of course, changed from Verstappen, Piastri. So we've got 5 more laps to go. And we've got Verstappen, Piastri, Gasly, who is being challenged by Sergio Perez, and who is Carlos Sainz has just gone past Sergio Perez. That's really interesting. So that's put Sergio Perez down. So car 11, Perez and Hamilton causing collision. Interesting. So Max Verstappen's just put in the fastest lap, and now we've got Perez. Whoa, just about took out Carlos Sainz, but Carlos Sainz able to hold that position, and now Perez is being challenged by Lando Norris, and it looks like Lando Norris is going to get him right here. In fact, he is taking him on the outside. No, come back on the inside. This is really good racing, folks, because I don't know if there's something wrong with Perez's car or he's just not as comfortable in the wet, but he is certainly he's just been passed by Carlos Sainz, and he's getting a huge amount, and he's complaining to his team that he's got no rear grip. So they can adjust that downforce on the rear end from the pits. So we'll see if they help him out here. And Lando Norris has just gone past him on the outside, and Perez lost it going into that turn, which is why Lando Norris got past him so fast. And now Perez is all the way back in 12th position. So, and he is being challenged for that 12th position by so Alex Albon. No, where did Perez? Oh, Perez has dropped back now. He's all the way back in 16th now. He's going backwards faster than he's going forward. So interesting stuff happening there. Also interesting at the front, because let's see what happens here. Does he get bumped by a car? Let's see. Oh yes, yeah. Who was that? Hamilton. Hamilton bumped him. Is what happened there. You know, as Hamilton's come out of these corners over the length of his career, he's been known to take out a few cars. So that's going to cost Hamilton, I'm going to say, 5 seconds. So that's going to put him back right now. He's going to start back in 11th or 12th, maybe a little further back. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it'll put him back in 8th. Danny Ricciardo is now up in 8th position, so it'll push Danny back. Well, Danny won't change. No, it'll just be, Danny's going to stay there. So Hamilton's going to have to serve that 5 second penalty. Well, it'll get added on to the end of the race. So But what's really interesting is how much better Max Verstappen's car is than the rest of the field. I mean, in just 3 laps ago, he passed Piastri, and now he's 3.5 seconds up on Piastri. So that car obviously behaving a lot better on this track today than Sergio Perez, who is now back in 17th position behind Magnussen and Sargent. So interesting stuff going on this sprint for the pole. Normally you don't get a lot of excitement in sprint for the pole, but this has been a little different. Of course, the weather has certainly added to some of the mishaps, but also drivers just taking risks that probably they shouldn't take, and causing problems for themselves. How Alonso lost it, I don't know, but he did, and so he's going to start back in 20th tomorrow. Verstappen, what is going on? Something's going on. Got to be something going on with Piastri's car, because in the last lap, he's putting he's just put an entire second on Piastri in this last lap. So there's got to be something that is happening there, that car's not happy about something. So anyway, back to the race. Ferraris are holding their own. They're not going anywhere, but they're not losing any positions. Lando Norris might be able to get past Leclerc and then Sainz here. We'll have to see, but we'd have to hope. Well, the good news for Piastri is he is managing to maintain his lead on Pierre Gasly. He's got a 2-second lead, and so Sergio Perez is in the pits. So he's just brought that car in and said, this is not for me. So he's going to start in 19th position. They're going to try and bring him back out. Can't imagine that they would. There's 2 laps left. So penalty. Lewis Hamilton is getting the penalty. It's going to be 5 seconds. So yeah, 5 seconds. So Hamilton will go about 2, 4. He's going to end up right behind Ricciardo. So Ricciardo is going to move up to 7th, and Hamilton's going to move down to 8th with that 5-second penalty. And it looks like Lando Norris is going to try and pass Charles Leclerc here. He is right up on him. If he's got better grip than that Ferrari, then for sure he's going to get past it. So who is that just going past George Russell? Esteban Ocon has just gone past George Russell. So it's seems like the Mercedes are struggling to stay on the road a little bit. Interesting. And no, it was. So now Ricciardo. So sorry, folks. A lot of changing positions here going on, and we're not really seeing it clearly. One, there's a lot of spray still on the track, so it's hard to make out which car is which. But I can certainly make out that Lando Norris is right on the tail of Leclerc, but he's a full second behind. So what we're going to see here is George Russell is overtaking Danny Ricciardo, is what that is, not the other way around. The way they showed it, it looked like Ricciardo was overtaking George Russell, but no, in fact, so George has taken over the 8th place and put Danny back to 9th. So with Hamilton's penalty, let's see, with Hamilton 2, 3, 4. Hamilton's going to end up in 8th position, and Russell will move up to 7th. So he's not. Well, if Danny Ricciardo can get past George Russell again, although I don't think he's going to, because he's dropped to 2 seconds behind. But you could say, so the starting grid tomorrow is Oscar Piastri is going to be on pole. That's almost for sure. With 2 laps left to go, he's got a 3-second lead on Gasly. So the strangest of strange tomorrow, folks, it will be Piastri and Gasly. So Piastri will be on pole. Gasly will be alongside him. And then behind them will be the two Ferraris. Behind them will be Norris and Russell. And behind them will be Ricciardo and Hamilton. So interesting things, very interesting things. No, sorry, I got that wrong. Because it's going to be, let me redo it. It's going to be Piastri, Gasly, Hamilton, Sainz, and then Verstappen, Leclerc. Right now, if it ends right now, and I don't see it changing. Nobody's going to make, unless somebody's going to spin out or something, nothing's going to change. So we're in for an interesting race tomorrow, folks. What has happened? That Alpine seems to have they've lost their main guy, and they've come alive today. They're going to start on the front row tomorrow. So Omar's going to leave with his guy starting on the front row. So all kinds of interesting things. So as we come up here to the end of the sprint for the pole, we need to thank our sponsors, Thenology. Guys, if you need storage, if you need private cloud, public cloud, co-location, then you need to call Thenology at thenology.com. If you need some crowdfunding, if you've had something bad happen to you and you need some help financially or anything like that, or you know friends that need help, or just strangers that are needing help, that happens a lot these days, please go to givesendgo.com. That is givesendgo.com. And for all of you parents out there, and my kids just finished their school. Well, my daughter's got one more semester to do in college, but she's going to Rome for that in a couple of weeks. But if you've got kids in college, you need to get yourself involved with the education system here and get these teachers and school boards back to teaching our kids what they really need to know. So go to momsforliberty.org. That is momsforliberty.org. And it has come to an end, and at the end, an exciting turn of events. So as I said, tomorrow it will be, because Verstappen's going to take a 5-grid penalty, it's going to be Piastri, Gasly, Sainz, and then Leclerc, and then it's going to be, they took it away from me, but it's going to be Verstappen and didn't remember who, maybe George Russell. Anyway, until tomorrow, folks, this is the Formula One News Hour signing off, and we can't sign off without saying thank you to our diligent producer, all things technical guru, Andre Kuhn. Thank you, Andre, for everything you do, every race, every week. And so this is Jonathan Steele saying, I'll see you tomorrow, folks. Take care.